Wednesday, September 4th. I'm Rim.
I'm Scott.
And this is Geeknights. Tonight we talk about Seattle.
Seattle. Let's do this. So on the last show, we're all bragging about the fact that we are not shit talkers. We said we go to PAX no matter what. We went to PAX no matter what, and we came back. Shit talking averted.
We're going to PAX next year no matter what, and East Coast PAX.
Yep. Well, to even out,
we're definitely going to Essen next year.
No, we're not. Even though I'd like to very much. To even out the shit talking, here comes some shit talking. Ready? We said that this Thursday show would be the Snow Crash show.
Wait, you said. I was ambivalent.
It is not. It is not the Snow Crash show. The Snow Crash show will be 1 week from today.
Granted, I'll admit, sadly, as much as I love Snow Crash, I'm not that excited about doing a Snow Crash show because of how few of you actually read the book.
Yeah, and I have to actually skim the book a little bit to refresh the memories and get the... I think once I do that, I'll be more excited to do the Snow Crash show.
We'll see. Basically, I'll say this. If you guys actually want the Snow Crash show, tell us. Because so far, people seem to not actually in any way care about the Geeknights Book Club, and we're getting like a 1% return rate here.
Well, here's my idea, right? We're going to do the Snow Crash show, and of course, in the Snow Crash show, we will announce the next book. I have an idea for the next book, and it's a really easy book.
Is it going to be, I can think of a few, The Little Prince?
No. It's not that easy. It's not C-Spot Run, all right? It's a worthwhile book, but it's easy.
Wait. Are you saying The Little Prince is not worthwhile?
I didn't say The Little Prince wasn't worthwhile.
Not
but
easy?
The Little Prince is...
Not C-Spot Run? Comparing it to C-Spot Run here?
No, I'm saying The Little Prince is one of my favorite books ever, but... This book we're going to do is slightly harder than Little Prince. Not that easy, all right?
Now I'm curious.
It's all right. It'll be okay. I can read the book in a day.
That doesn't say much, because I read The Prince of Nothing in like a week, and apparently...
That's the thing, is I figure, right, I read these books in a week, and other people take a month. If I can read it in a day, maybe the people can read it in 2 weeks. Maybe.
We'll see. All right, kids.
And then if that doesn't work... Maybe we'll either really shame everyone who didn't read and call you out for being doofuses or something. I don't know.
Maybe I kind of like doofy, even though it's incorrect.
I know, doofuses.
Kind of like that whole argument about how they're going to pluralize Pax as Paxis, even though that like hurts my ears to hear.
Yeah, well, Paces.
Yeah, much cooler.
All right. Anyway, do we want to do news or not? I have a news that can stir some discussion, even though it's pretty old.
I've got some news. You know what? The cupboard is freaking bare. We haven't been to the grocery store in forever. It's been con season for as long as I can remember.
Well, I think we're going to go to the grocery tomorrow. Do you want to go to the fancy Newburgh grocery?
I don't know. It won't be open tomorrow late like that.
Who knows when it's open?
It does not open that late, I don't think.
I don't know. I'll go look it up.
Especially, you get them late, but there's no food in this house. I was eating and drinking things that I never expected to eat or drink. I don't even know why I owned them. They were in the kitchen. I guess they were emergency
food. Did you eat
food.
Like an emergency lasagna or something?
Oh, God. Actually, I saw the emergency lasagna, and I threw it away.
Oh.
It was frightening looking.
It's pretty scary.
No, I ate third-tier ramen.
Third tier, as in top ramen?
Top ramen. That's the third tier. Fourth tier being Maruchan.
Why don't we have Sapporo Ichiban?
I ate it all.
I ate it.
I had a ramen, but I ate it.
Where are the kitsunes? I ate them. Were they yummy? Did you grill them on the stick over the fire? The spinny stick or what? I don't know.
What?
Whatever.
I see where you're going with that, but if measure is unceasing, that joke is dead.
Right.
Anyway.
So, check this out, right? This is a little old. This is from like a week or two ago.
Oh my God, that's like ancient internet
It's from
times.
August 26th, right? But I don't think we discussed it on this show, even though it was actually discussed in semi-mainstream media. But anyway, in Connecticut, right, there was a kid named Jericho Scott. Right? Scott was his last name. He's 9 years old, okay? And he's in the Little League. Did you hear this story yet?
No, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Oh, this story is going to infuriate you. I'm so glad.
Wait a minute. This involves helicopter parents, I'm going to guess. Possibly religion and or a closed-minded town.
No religion. Not really a town that's closed-minded.
All right, helicopter parents, though.
Perhaps helicoptering. It could be easily interpreted as helicopter parents.
Maybe some coddling.
Definitely coddling. So what's going on? The situation was this. Jericho Scott, this 9-year-old kid, can throw a 40-mile-an-hour fastball right over the plate every time. He's pretty awesome.
Whoa.
Right? He's and this kid's like this all the time.
That can't be good for him. Pitching's not good for you, let alone pitching well.
Kids who are like this in the Little League, maybe they win the Little League World Series. Who's won? Where are the big major league stars that were big Little Leaguers? They don't exist. It's major league players, the people who develop, later. This kid's probably going to throw a 40-mile-an-hour fastball his whole life. He's never going to really throw a 90-mile-an-hour ball.
I don't think I could have thrown a 40-mile-an-hour fastball now.
It's all in the wrist. Like when I was at summer camp once, they had a scout come and teach the kids how to throw and stuff. And I actually paid attention because I was older and wiser by that time. I was a counselor, not a camper. And, I could throw, but I could never, throw hard. And the guy was like, look, here's the technique. And I basically tried it I just played catch with this dude for 10 minutes. And at first it was just like, eh. And then eventually it was like, where it's like, whoosh, and I'm like, oh.
Well, you can always tell the kids who play catch with their parents versus the kids who don't, because the kids who know how to throw can actually make it back to home base from at least second base.
Yeah, I mean, it's like there's actually like a trick to throwing a baseball where you snap your wrist and such. And
thus doing slow, permanent damage to your body. But
well, it depends, not pitching, but just throwing, like field throwing, not damaging your body. And, it doesn't take that long to learn if you have, adequate motor skills. And it's really fun once you figure it out. It's like, oh, shit, I can throw hard. Awesome. Anyway, so, all right, this kid exists. And what happened was his team was 8-0, of course. Right? 8 games won, no games lost. And they were preparing for the playoffs. And they went up and they were going to play this game. And the other team just forfeited. Right?
All right.
The team was like, oh, shit. They tried to take the mound and the other team quit because they were afraid.
All right, first off, that other team, totally lame. However, while they are wusses, and I can say one thing. Back in Quiz Bowl, because we were kind of the bad boys of Quiz Bowl, and we were pretty good, but a lot of times we would lose on purpose just to go dick around. We sometimes, like a couple of times, we actually used rules or had someone stay in the bathroom too long to force a forfeit just because our coach couldn't accuse us of quitting.
Yep. So, what happened next? Well, they told the kid he couldn't play.
Wait a minute.
Wait, and
who told the kid he couldn't play?
The league.
On what grounds?
On grounds that, no one would play against him and they were afraid, right? And then, wait, the team coach refused to break up the team. So basically, the team isn't going to play. The
team coach for the win.
The team is banned from the league. And the coach says he's never hurt anyone. He's on target all the time. How can you punish him for being too good? Said the pitcher, the kid says, I feel sad. I feel like it's my fault no one can play. The league says he's a very skilled player, a very hard thrower. The league attorney says there are a lot of beginners. It's not a high-powered league. It's a developmental league whose main purpose is to promote the sport. So basically, they kicked the team out.
Wait, what kind of league was this then?
Little League.
Like what kind of Little League? There's a lot of different Little Leagues.
The Youth Baseball League of New Haven, Connecticut.
So publicly funded?
I don't know.
I'm just curious. I
doubt it's publicly funded. I don't know about that. That does make a difference. I didn't think of that angle before.
I was fundled once.
Yeah, I didn't think of that angle. But the thing is, I'm gonna repeat what was said on the ESPN show PTI that I listened to.
I can sum up everything I feel about this in 2 words. Mm-hmm. Harrison Bergeron.
Exactly. No, but on PTI, right? The sports show I listen to. It's a TV show, but I listen to the podcast. You should too. The guy was like, he told a story how when he was a kid and he was in the league, there was one pitcher on one team who was wicked dangerous. And he was always afraid of him. But eventually he got over it and he actually hit off the guy. And he was like, oh yeah. And you're taking away that, valuable youth experience from the kids of having to go up and hit against this terrifyingly good pitcher and getting over it. Instead, sort of the wussifying No Child Left Behind Harrison Bergeron action.
Case in point, if anyone here has not read Harrison Bergeron, read it. And 2,
required. Look, if you can't read a book, all right, you can at least read Harrison Bergeron. And if you can't read Harrison
There's a
Bergeron,
movie. There's a movie. It's actually a really good movie.
You can watch the movie. And if you can't even watch the movie, you can read the last question, at least.
I can say one thing. Harrison Bergeron, the movie, is very much like V for Vendetta. Like it's kind of like the movie to the book is the same difference, like V for Vendetta versus its comic.
Harrison Bergeron's a short story, kids. You can read it. They probably make you read it in school. They made me read it in school 3 times. All right.
So, as many of you know, I hail from the land of Detroit, Michigan. I was born
Detroit, which we saw from the sky.
Yes,
At
we
night.
saw it from the sky. And Scott pointed out that, and we look out the window, it's basically a giant lighted grid of roads with like 2 diagonal roads going across the whole thing.
Yeah, there were also some angled roads near the edge.
Well, near the edge because the water's there, so the grid kind of turns to follow
So just
the
have
water.
the road go right, just, extend the roads out into the water with little bridges so that there's still a grid.
Yeah, instead, well, the thing is, if you go away from the water, it's just a perfect grid all the way down into like Ohio and Wisconsin, all the way across into Canada.
Yep. Anyway.
Yeah, but anyway, Detroit is an interesting place. Now, I point out that the only people who say Detroit are people who are not from Detroit or people on the radio. It's weird. Like a lot of radio personalities in Detroit will say Detroit, Michigan. But everyone who lives in Detroit, we just say Detroit.
Detroit.
Or Detroit.
Detroit.
Duh. It's more of a de.
De.
Detroit.
Detroit.
But of course, there's always Sault Ste. Mary up on top. Anyway, Detroit, I have a love-hate relationship with the city of Detroit because on one hand, Detroit is a really cool place and there's a lot of cool architecture and it's one of those really important cities. It was a world city, a global city that fell into decline, went into industry and all these sorts of things.
It's sad to see anything awesome become less awesome. Like it's like the World's Fair in New York, only a lot bigger. It's like, oh man, and now it's just a park.
But one thing I can say about Detroit is that the politics of Detroit, which are a microcosm in many ways of the politics of Michigan as a whole.
Well,
Except for the
look at
top.
the ancestors of modern Detroit politics. Al Capone. Right? That's the ancestor you're coming from here.
Scott, where was Al Capone based?
Chicago.
Okay.
Yeah. Detroit was close.
Okay.
Yeah.
There are better people to make fun of for Detroit. There's some notorious Detroitarians. Anyway.
Al Capone owned them all.
Al Capone wasn't even that good. Ma Baker's the way to go.
It's all about Al Capone's vault. His hidden Detroit.
Wait.
Hidden Detroit gold.
Are you making a Geraldo joke
A what?
on Geeknights? You realize the whole Al Capone vault thing came out of Geraldo Rivera.
I don't know what that is. All I know is that it was some weird TV special.
Yes,
where they,
Geraldo Rivera. He said, I found Al Capone's vault.
Oh, so-
we don't know what's in there. He built up to this business
so
for like a
Geraldo
month.
Rivera is a person.
Yes.
Okay, so it was just a guy.
So finally, the moment comes. Live TV, this crazy buildup. They've got all
And
these
it was
people
empty.
around. There was like some dust in there and a
Yeah.
cobweb, maybe a dead mouse.
I didn't stay up to see what was in there.
But Michigan, the only state in the union to have a shooting war, not a long one, with another state.
Whiskey
And
Rebellion.
The only state, well, not actually, I think Texas had an incident too, where it's militia independently.
No, Texas, that's an international war. That's not a state for state
Michigan's
war.
militia, independent of any orders from the Union, invaded Canada on at least one occasion.
Yeah.
They caused some mischief and eventually were pushed back over the border because the Mounties were actually very competent. Michigan militia, not so much.
Well, mounted units always beat non-mounted units. This is a law
Unless
of war.
they have pikes.
And there were no pikes. They were just muskets. But the thing is, the other guys had muskets too. So muskets on horses beat muskets not on horses.
But to skip a bit, Detroit has had many, shall we say, colorful personalities in its political machine. Political machine that I think Tammany Hall is what I would say when I'm talking
That's
about.
new. I go to Chicago. You go all the way to New York, all right?
Yes.
And you're yelling at me? Fuck you.
Anyway, here's the deal. One of these colorful people, the mayor of Detroit after I left, Mayor Kwame Kilpatrick. And
I thought it was Kwame Brown.
what?
No? Okay.
No. No. Where would you get that?
I don't know.
That borders on racist.
Is it?
Anyway.
There is a person named Kwame Brown. Oh, he's a basketball player. Never mind.
Okay, anyway.
I got
Kwame
confused.
Kilpatrick he's almost my hero because you see, the United States, one of the reasons we've been such a stable nation for so long and why our nation is generally so ascendant in the world is the tradition of the peaceful transfer of power. And let me tell you, Kwame did everything he could to disrupt that process. This is a man who, when told to leave office, said no.
Wow.
Here, I don't want to tell the whole story about this. All I want to say is that he's finally in jail.
Hooray.
And I think it is at an end. But
all right. Well, it doesn't get. Who's the mayor now?
Allow me to point out one thing. There are 2/3 of his Wikipedia page are called political career and controversies.
Okay.
I'm just going to go down through some headlines. Let's see. The Manugian Mansion Party.
Nice.
The murder of Tamara Green.
Not nice.
The motorcycle squad Harley Davidson.
Awesome.
The whistleblower trial.
Not so
The
awesome.
text messaging scandal.
Okay.
There's a whole separate Wikipedia page about that.
Nice.
Criminal charges.
Nah.
The red Lincoln Navigator.
Yeah.
The Civic
Bad choice of
Fund.
car.
The slander suit. The recall campaign. The funneling of state grant money to his wife.
Why you
The
give money to your
Washington,
wife?
D.C. police deny him after hours protection.
All right.
The preferential hiring of family and friends. A preacher, a prostitute, and the mayor. The death threat against the prosecutor. Allegations of assaulting a police officer. Jailed. FBI begins investigating.
See, it's something I don't understand, right? Look at a place like Connecticut, right? In Connecticut, there was a Governor Rowland, right? And Governor Rowland, basically what he did is he, because governments often, take bids for things. They had to go with the lowest bidder. You know how that works, right? Basically, he helped his contractor buddies, win the bids and such so that he could, get some monies and funneled some monies and like extensions onto his house, something about that. I don't remember the exact details, but it was a typical kind of corruption bidding thing. He did one thing like that. You know what happened? He went to jail. It was jail, but he went to jail and he was out immediately. That was it. This Kwame Brown, the basketball player. No.
This thing has been going on for a while.
This Mayor Kwame of Detroit, right? How many corrupt things did he get away with before now he's in jail? Why does it take so long in Detroit when in Connecticut it took 5 minutes?
Detroit, you've never been to Detroit. You've been to Novi.
Yep.
You drove near Detroit. You've never been in Detroit. You've never lived in Detroit. All I have to say is I found this thing hilarious for as long as it's been happening, and I just wanted to point out that it finally came to its hilarious and bitter end. So, things of the day from PAX. I can't help.
Mine's not from PAX.
Mine is, however, because I was going to do something else. I got a bunch of, saved up things. You can look in my Delicious and find them if you're really desperate. Of course, then you'll just be very disappointed on some Geeknights episode far in the future. But I mentioned that at PAX, the audience was rickrolled in perhaps the most epic rickrolling I've ever seen. And there's a YouTube video of this rickrolling. I pointed out...
Telling them that the videos are rickrolling sort of ruins the effect of the video.
No, it doesn't, because you're going to know it's a rickrolling. You go to YouTube, it says, PAX 2008 - Jonathan Colton rickrolls the audience.
Oh, well, I guess that's...
Jonathan Colton tricks the audience into clicking on a suspicious link.
I fell for it.
We all fell for it. Now, the reason I want you to watch this video is because if you didn't listen to our PAX coverage because you're an idiot, because any human being could enjoy PAX... and you probably should all...
Anyone who enjoys Geeknights would enjoy PAX. Not any human being. I doubt my grandma would enjoy PAX.
My grandma would have. If you're listening to this, you probably either enjoy PAX or someone is trying to rickroll you with Geeknights.
Very nice.
But watch this video, one, to understand how epic this rickrolling was, but more importantly, listen to the way the crowd reacts. The shift in volume really says it all.
Yeah. That gives me an idea. Why don't we start a campaign of Geek Roll where we say, hey, everyone, go to forums and blogs and places and post comments that link to Geeknights episodes and such, but you make it look like you're linking a Spore 2 or whatever it is you're deciding to rickroll that day.
That's like saying, hey, go punch people in the face and then say Geeknights sent you.
Do it.
All right. So what do you got? And I just want to point out before we go any further that everything I said about Mayor Kwame Kilpatrick was taken from Wikipedia, and I hold no veracity to it. Anyway.
Yeah, all right. And Kwame Brown is a basketball player.
Yes.
That I just got confused with Kwame Kilpatrick. Okay. So Mary Blair, do you know who Mary Blair is?
I have no idea.
Mary Blair is the It's a Small World After All illustrator. Once you see the art, you'll be like, oh.
All right.
And this is art where when I was a kid, I did not appreciate. And now that has been brought to my attention yet again, I suddenly appreciate it times a billion. I don't know why. But it's amazing. And basically, this person on Flickr made a small archive. Let me just read their little description of their set, their Flickr set. A small archive of Mary Blair images I've culled from the internet, including some from animation art dealers and auction sites. I started saving the images because I had no clue if I would ever see them again once certain items were bought for private collections. I got hiccups or something. I don't know. You got some Alice in Wonderland, which I think is the best part of the collection here. You got some Cinderellas. You got some Sleeping Beauties. You got some just like greeting card shit. This stuff is pretty freaking awesome stuff here. And if you have any appreciation of illustrations and that sort of Disney arts, you need to take a look at this. I enjoyed it immensely.
Memorize these funny place names. Walla Walla, Keokuk, Cucamonga, Seattle.
Stop it, you're killing me. Seattle.
So, Seattle.
That's one of my favorite clips. I can't believe it's like I've been looking for that clip for a while. Not that I actually tried hard to search for it, but as soon as we decided to put it in the show, we found it on Hulu immediately, and it was the perfect clip. Exactly
Considering
what
we were
looking.
walking around Seattle the whole weekend going, Seattle.
Nah.
Seattle. People were kind of looking at us. But yes, Geeknights, Rim and Scott, the residents of the East Coast, went to that other coast. We went to Seattle. It was the first time Scott had ever been west of Novi, Michigan. It was the first time I had ever been west of Benson in Arizona.
Yep. No,
And I mean, other than flying to Benson, kind of not that long before PAX, I'd only been as far west as Chicago up to that point.
Yeah. I've decided I want to be Magellan and pass through every possible longitude.
Do you really?
Yep.
There's some longitudes that aren't that fun.
I know, but I just had to make it pretty much from Seattle to Israel somehow on the other side of the world. So flying to China will help a lot, right? The hard part is going to be between China and Israel. That's the hard longitudes to get. Maybe I can go to Perth, Australia. That would get pretty close.
Anyway.
Then India. Then Italy. There we go. If I go from Japan to Australia to India to Italy, I'll have it covered. All right.
So, because PAX is so crazy and gigantic, and we're going to do like 7 or 8 shows about it at this point.
Well, or things relating to it.
Yes. We decided very pointedly to kind of excise out all of the not directly related to PAX business. So, like when we tell the story of Otakon, it's gotten to the point where we'll talk about, stuff we did in Baltimore and all that kind of business and Katsucon and all these things. But now we're going to do a show kind of all the stuff that we did at PAX that had nothing to do with PAX.
Well, most of it was eating at restaurants.
I guess we'd call it Go West Young Men.
Something like that.
Yes. First thing I want to say is that, the odyssey of us going to Seattle began with JetBlue, and, we did our business. Actually, it was kind of sad because Emily was going to, see us off, and she had a gift for me, but then we caught the shuttle at, the perfectly wrong time, and then we got to the JetBlue terminal in JFK, and only to discover that basically we're in line. There's 20 people in front of us to check bags. And then the line stops moving for a while. And then we discover that the computers have crashed, and one by one, you see people around us get more and more panicked.
I'm just chilling because I'm like, whatever, I'm going to get on my flight. This computer failure cannot possibly keep me from getting on the plane. As long as the plane works, this doesn't matter. So, yeah.
Well, partly only because we were there 3 hours before our flight, all told.
Yeah, but even so, it's like no one ever misses their flight because computers mess up. They'll, eventually they're like, oh shit, this flight is leaving real soon. Hey, who's on this flight that's leaving real soon? And you raise your hand and they say, come here. See,
at the same time, though, they were announced. I mean, it kind of bothers me that it seemed like they had no sort of way to work around this at all. And JetBlue's, I guess, way of dealing with it was to have a young woman yell really quietly into a roaring crowd which people should come up, and it really wasn't working. And I'll bet some people missed their flights.
They had an intercom they weren't using.
I
but-
know, it was right there.
Yeah,
But-
it didn't cause me a problem. So, and our flight was delayed by 30 minutes anyway, so whatever.
Yeah, chilling in the airport. We actually had to go to that kind of creepy other temporary terminal with a little shuttle off in the corner.
Yeah, I didn't even know that existed. People don't, at JFK Airport, right? There's this famous terminal, Terminal 5. It's the old TWA terminal, and my dad keeps talking about it all the time because
Yeah, if you're curious, just Wikipedia TWA.
Right.
It's an interesting story.
basically this terminal opened up to much fanfare, and from above, it's in the shape of an airplane, and it was real fancy, but it's been, for as long as I've been going to JFK, the thing has been empty because TWA gone, right? No more. But JetBlue basically ran out of space in their terminal, which is the next door terminal, which is Terminal 6. So they bought Terminal 5, but they needed more gates right away. So they actually built sort of a temporary terminal behind Terminal 5, and they have a shuttle bus that takes you there. And I didn't even know it existed, but we took it, and it worked. It was just fine. It was totally cool.
Yeah, the sad thing is, though, much like how PAX's Wi-Fi wasn't so hot, the airport Wi-Fi was real strong, but didn't work at all. And there was this.
What is this lately with the free, little local Wi-Fi networks, right? Having a strong signal, but not actually working when you connect to them. What
It's
is up with-
trivial. It's interference. It's actually very difficult to put together a large-scale Wi-Fi network that works.
Well, why don't we sell like a package that people can set up that will work?
What do you mean a package? You basically have to put the things in the exact right locations.
Right, we have a little thing where you walk around with the access point and then it beeps when it says I'm in a good spot.
That won't really help you.
No?
That won't tell you where to put it. Also, a lot of people don't realize how the antenna should be oriented and all this
Yeah,
sort
people
of
don't,
complicated.
and people don't realize you can change the channels on these things.
Well,
everyone leaves them all on the same channel. They don't change it to 11 and stuff.
It's not just that. I see people pointing the antennas and dumb. Well, let me put it this way. I took an entire class at RIT that was basically where to put access points.
Yeah.
We walked around RIT with detectors, and oh my god, that was a fun class. But the funny thing
That was a very popular class, too. Every single quarter, I would always see kids with little push carts walking around doing that.
But the funny thing was, basically, we're sitting there, and there's this cluster of nerds all sitting around with laptops because there's some holes, some outlets there, and a power strip. Everyone's got their laptops
Except
plugged
me
in.
and Ram didn't need the holes because we had Fujitsu.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone else was desperate for the holes.
This one guy's like, my battery only lasts an hour. This laptop's brand new.
Yeah, one guy was obviously a PAX guy running Linux.
Yep.
One guy might have been a PAX guy.
Yeah, he
one
was
guy
real
was
shy,
an old
though.
businessman who was talking too much.
That old businessman was clearly very drunk.
Yeah.
He was real
Or
excited,
he was just
though.
real talkative. He
No,
might
he
have been
was drunk.
he was halfway to drunk, maybe.
You could smell the liquor on him.
I
and
didn't
about
smell
him.
any liquors.
Man was drunk.
All right, whatever.
But whatever, we took a late flight. So basically, we left at 9:45, and then we got to Seattle at 1:30 in the morning.
And then we, went to bed.
Yeah, pretty much collapsed.
Right. So we woke up, and what did we do in Seattle? Well, we ate food.
Well, first, we got up. We had plenty of time before the con, so we wandered around. We went over to the famous, by accident, the Pike Place Market.
Yeah, apparently on the water there, right? Because you can walk towards the water or away from it. And it's not the Pacific Ocean, sadly, but it's water. And there's a lot of boats and ferries and cruise ships and things in that water, right? And, there's this big market, right up on the water there. And it's all sorts of stuff going on. There's this one fish seller there, and he's got people singing and dancing and selling fish and throwing fish. And
I didn't realize what the place was until I saw this monkfish hanging there, and there was a sign that said, "Hi, I'm a monkfish." And I had seen that exact thing on FARC 100 times. So I suddenly realized, wait a minute. Now I've been the place where that monkfish has also been.
It's really touristy down there, but there's all sorts of cool stuff. I mean, there's a hat shop, right?
Yeah, of all the things, we're walking, we find this hattery. So, a haberdasher, if you will.
Exactly.
And and the thing is, this guy had one of every possible kind of hat.
Yeah, I mean, you name the kind of hat he's got. He got Panama, top, fedora.
He had some really classy bowler hats.
Yeah, bowler.
And
derby.
I need a new, because I used to have this really good Australian leather hat that eventually shrunk and no longer fits on my
10
gigantic
gallon.
head. So I need to buy a new kind of Stetson style.
Baseball.
I'm a cowboy. I'm an Australian awesome dude. I need a leather hat kind of thing.
Beanie, beret.
The only reason I didn't buy one right then and there in Seattle is that I didn't want to fly it home.
I can't think of any other kinds of hats.
Yeah, but we walked around and we're trying to figure out where should we eat breakfast because we never get to eat breakfast anywhere. And I'm not going to linger on this,
No.
but we went to some random hole in the wall. It was kind of average looking, and that was one of the best breakfast sandwiches I've ever eaten.
Yeah, I mean, I really wanted like a big, waffles, pancakes kind of thing, but I couldn't find such a place easily.
Yeah, I don't think there are diners in Seattle, or if there are, there was no way for us to find them with all the technology at our disposal.
Yeah, at least not like the diners we have in Jersey, New York, Connecticut, where it's
or
like,
even the diners in the Midwest. I couldn't find anything like a diner. It was mostly like, of course, not about the area we were in, but it was mostly like tap houses and bar and grills, and there were a lot of like crepe places and breakfast places that were basically glorified coffee shops selling like scones and
there's
biscuits.
a lot of coffee shops. I mean, Seattle's the home of Starbucks. It's also the home of Seattle's best coffee. It's also the home of like 100 other like individual independent coffee shops.
You know what?
There's coffee fucking everywhere. Like, I mean, in New York, you might find like a Chinese restaurant like every few blocks. In freaking Seattle, there's like 2 coffees on the side of every block. That's like 8 coffees per block. It's ridiculous.
The thing is, New York City, I feel like the density of...
New York City has a lot, but only half as many as Seattle.
I don't think so. You see, maybe just because I'm in Midtown, but there are exactly 8 Starbucks within a trivial walk of my office, and I've gone to all of them more than once.
Yeah.
But I feel like despite it being the whole... Like everyone says, yeah, Seattle, Starbucks, blah, blah, blah. The... I guess proportion of Starbucks to other coffee shops was actually real low.
Yeah,
It
I mean,
was mostly
Starbucks is maybe a
non-Starbucks.
third maybe at most was Starbucks. I don't know. It's hard to tell.
Yeah.
I mean, there were a lot of Starbucks, but there were a lot of non-Starbucks too. Anyway.
Yeah, but so we walk around and we had this really good, but we couldn't find like a diner.
We couldn't find like a diner or anything. So we just find a place that's like, cafe, whatever. And we go in and we say, make me, bacon, egg, and cheese on an English muffin. And it was bacon, egg, and cheese and an English muffin. But it's like, it wasn't like this some amazing breakfast, but it was like they put like an extra care into making it. And it was actually really satisfying.
It's like they spent, like, imagine if someone just makes a sandwich, right? Imagine if the same person spent 5 more seconds on that sandwich. That makes a lot of difference, actually.
Yeah, they put a little bit of care into it. And I was like, oh, that was real. And then as soon as you take 2 steps, we see a place that says breakfast on the window. And I'm like,
We can just talk about all the breakfast we had right now.
All right, so that place.
What
that
a show
said,
this is. Seattle.
Yeah, the place that we saw that said breakfast on the window, we ate there for breakfast the next day.
Also not a diner, basically a coffee shop.
Basically a coffee shop. And it was overpriced.
You know what's weird? They didn't have sausage or bacon.
Yeah, none.
Like you couldn't order it. I was like I'm looking at the menu and I'm looking for because I don't know, I wanted scrambled eggs and sausage and bacon and some pancakes. But no, I couldn't get anything like that.
Yeah, what did I get? I get a waffle, I think?
Yeah, like a waffle.
I think I got the Belgian waffle, and I think I was slightly disappointed. I think it was slightly overpriced.
Another thing I can say,
though, that's
is
right.
that
I got a good beverage, though, but
Yeah,
you
I
didn't.
didn't.
You didn't. You picked a bad one.
I failed.
You failed.
Another thing, that there's a lot of juice bars and a lot of hippie randy BS in Seattle.
Yeah. It's not so much hippie randy BS as much as it's just general hippiness, a little bit of randy, but a lot of, sort of...
The randy was more diffuse.
Yeah, definitely diffuse.
But there was a
randy.
lot of randy.
There was. It was sort of hidden a little bit. It wasn't surface randy. It was like, take a step in, beyond the, just typical hippiness, and then the randy is, back there.
Yeah, I saw a lot of reflexology people walking around with signs and but anyway, it was just weird that at no time in Seattle was I able to get a breakfast likening to what I would eat in New York or Michigan.
Well, people on Twitter, right? And Twitter is actually helpful in this respect to find a place to eat. They said to just go eat at the Pike Place Bar and Grill for, breakfast. And we
and
did.
it turns out actually a lot of those bar and grill places during the day just serve breakfast. But again, not a diner breakfast. Kind of weird. Not quite.
No. Well, I got French toast and bacon, and that was actually really good bacons.
Yeah. I got to talk about one thing, though, because we kept walking past this New York-style bagel place. And, it's kind of, it's funny.
We ate there on Labor Day, I think.
It's kind of like someone who, say you live in Chicago and you go to Florida and you see, Chicago-style pizza. I definitely got that kind of vibe. You know what?
It's like if you go to somewhere in Jersey or, even farther, you go to Florida and they're like Philly cheesesteak. You're like, No.
However, I can say one thing. Bagels taste the same everywhere.
Oh, it depends.
No, here's the thing. Bagels taste the same. These were actually bagels. If they make it the way you make a bagel, it tastes the same.
Not really.
It tasted exactly the same.
It was an okay bagel, but
It was identical to the bagel I get at the Hot and Crusty.
no. The hot and crusty isn't the best bagel in the universe either.
But it was identical to that. What better bagel?
Yeah, if we go out to Queens, I'll get you some bagels.
Yeah, we'll see. I don't think there's any difference.
Yeah,
There's a
there is.
line. There's a line beyond which a bagel is a bagel.
Yeah, there are some really good bagels out there.
I don't know. I eat
you
a lot of bagels.
You don't have the Jew mouth, so you wouldn't know.
Fine, I don't have the Jew mouth. Bagels in Seattle taste the same as bagels here.
No, that bagel was, it tasted different than a hot and crusty bagel, but it was about equivalent quality level.
Didn't it taste the same? I don't know what's
No, it
wrong with
didn't.
you.
No. Anyway.
That's because you got it with capers and stuff.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah.
I got. They just didn't give me just. We're on the water there, so there's fish. There's a fish market where people are singing and dancing.
A fish.
So I didn't just get a bagel with lox and cream cheese. I got a bagel with lox and cream cheese, tomato, onion, and capers.
I got a bagel with extra lox and cream cheese.
All right, it was good times.
Yeah. Enough about breakfast. Let's talk about Seattle.
No, you don't want to talk about lunch.
No.
Or dinner?
Let's talk about Seattle a little.
All right, so Seattle is kind of weird. At least the part that we were in.
One, it felt like this might sound strange, maybe just because we're from New York, but it felt really, really small and really, really uncrowded. Like,
Yeah, it also felt sort of like a shopping mall. Like even you're on the street, but it felt like you're in a shopping mall.
Now, granted, we wandered, we didn't wander around all of Seattle. Like, I really wanted to go to Fremont, but we didn't have time. But we wandered pretty far, and everywhere felt kind of the same. And the streets, like the sidewalks are really wide. And even on like Friday, there really weren't people in the streets so
It was
much.
weird because I saw these huge buildings, right? And I said there must be a bajillion employees in that building. And I could understand those employees not being in town Saturday, Sunday, Labor Day. But on Friday, it didn't seem like those employees were around. Even around 5 o'clock, I didn't see them spilling into the streets. That building must have like thousands and thousands of desks in it. I didn't see thousands and thousands of people come pouring out of the building. And there were a lot of those buildings. And I was like, where the hell are all the people? It never felt crowded. That just might be because they've got the traffic down, even though I doubt it, because anyone who's from anywhere will always complain about traffic no matter what.
Well, one thing I can say that might just really get walking around on Friday and even after the con, I saw more people who were there because of PAX than I did people who lived there.
Yeah, really, walking around.
Even like going far away.
I would say 1/3 to 1/2 of the people I saw outside of the convention center at any moment in time were PAX people.
Now, I was really wondering about that. And finally, I looked on Wikipedia, and I'm on Wikipedia right now to remember the number. The population of Seattle is only like 600,000 people.
Really?
Yeah, there's like 4 million people in the greater metro area, but in Seattle is basically 2.5 of the suburb I lived in Michigan.
Whoa.
And as a result, think of this. PAX was like 1/12 of the population of Seattle.
So 1 in 12 people, that seems about right.
That does seem about right, all things considered, because PAX people would be more likely to be outside as opposed to in a building because we didn't know where to go. We're wandering, walking around, looking around.
Walking around, looking around. The streets were a nice grid. I mean, at first I was a little disoriented, but I sort of used the water and away from the water as guides and, east and west of the convention center as guides. And my hotel, the Red Line, was pretty tall, so I could sort of figure out where it was. And I learned where I was going pretty quick. And I had a lot of landmarks, and it was sort of like, learning your way around a map in a video game. You walk around a little bit, just not knowing where you're going. You just keep walking. And then within a few minutes, you passed by a place twice, coming from 2 different directions, and you've got it figured out.
But impressions of Seattle. This might be stereotypical, and I think I mentioned it on the Tuesday show, but I'd like to mention it again. No one in Seattle jaywalks. Like, they just don't. There'll be no traffic in either direction, like none. Like, not a car as far as you can see. Lights red, crowd of people just stand there. Just stand and wait.
Yeah, and then we walk, and then sometimes when you walk, someone else will follow you, but I don't think anyone instigated a jaywalk other than us.
And even then, people who followed us, and not just us, when I say us, I mean everyone from New York, because you could pick out the other New Yorkers.
Easily.
You'd see them in the distance, walking twice as fast as everyone in the street,
It was
dodging
weird.
around people.
I actually had trouble readjusting to New York walking after Seattle walking. I'm bumping into people, and I'm like, oh yeah, right, people. I have to actually, walk properly.
Yeah, because Seattle.
I got real lazy with my walking in Seattle. You can just walk all willy-nilly on this big, wide, empty sidewalk.
Yeah, in Seattle, it was cool. Like, if I
Walk
saw
as fast as you want.
Like, we saw this map store, right? So when we saw the map store, like, we stopped outside of it, like, just in the sidewalk. I just stopped and was looking at it. If I did that in New York, I'd be dead.
Wouldn't be dead, but two people would have bumped into your ass and said, move it, asshole.
Yeah. Actually, I want to talk about that map store because that was really cool.
So we see this map store, and the second time we see the map store, we decide to go into the map store. It's a store. They sell maps, globes, and related cartographical items.
Ally, perhaps, charts, all those sorts of things. Now, there's a map store near where I work in Manhattan, but it's basically one of those Hagstrom kind of, useful modern maps of things and nautical charts and GPSs and all that BS. This was the map store equivalent of like a geek gamer store for gamers. It was like map geeks would come here.
Oh, yeah.
And the thing is, the proprietor of this store
was the old man, obviously.
This dude was a map geek, and you could totally tell. So we walk in, and the guy's like, "Can I help you?" And he's like, he's nice, but he's not excited. He's probably like the game store guy who's thinking, "All right, Yu-Gi-Oh kids."
Imagine if you run a video game, a regular board game store, right? You sell the CCGs and the D&D, but you also sell the good stuff, right? Some kid comes in and says, "I want Yu-Gi-Oh cards." You say, "Here you go, kid." Kid walks in, says he wants Magic cards. "Here you go, kid." Kid walks in, says he wants World of Warcraft miniatures. "Here you go, kid." Guy walks in, says he wants some Warhammer minis. All right. I'm going to make some big money here. Here you go. Guy comes in, he says, "Hey, I heard about this burning wheel." And you go, "Ho, ho, ho, did you now?" We were like that, "Oh, did you now?" to this map guy.
Because basically, I had no plan. I walked in because, hey, cool store. I'm bored. I got plenty of time. And then the guy, "Can I help you?" And I don't just say, "No, I'm all right." I think a minute. I consider the question. And then I turn to him and say, "Actually, do you happen to have any period nautical charts or military maps from the Napoleonic War era, particularly of the English Channel?" And he pauses and he looks up thoughtfully. And then, he seems to get really excited. He starts moving his fists up and down, I don't think so, but hold on, bear with me. And he starts going through all these maps and things, and he's looking in this reference book and, trying to cross-reference. And then he's like, "No, I don't have any. No one's really asked for anything like that before, but I'll tell you what you should do is call the Library of..." And he starts giving me all this crazy advice about how to get a hold of nautical charts, period nautical charts of the English Channel. And he's super excited. And for 10 minutes, he tells me the business.
Well, how do you open up a map store if you're not a map nerd? I mean, come on.
I have a feeling that we made this dude's day.
It's weird because in New York City, there's a store of every kind, right? But everything's crammed in and tight, right? So, and unless you know where a lot of these things are, because a lot of them are not in the crowded thoroughfares, right? They're off to the sides in the villages or whatnot where you don't go too often. You're not going to know about them. You have to sort of look them up and then specifically go to where they are. I'm sure there's a map store in the city I could find if I searched for it, but I had to search. Seattle, we actually walked around, I'd say effectively all of downtown Seattle, at least where there was stuff.
Now, only downtown. We clearly did not get to all the other awesome
We didn't go to the
neighborhoods of Seattle.
residential areas or say the college area. I mean, Seattle itself, the city, the borders of the city of Seattle were big, but the downtown Seattle, you could actually walk around all of it. At least most of the important parts pretty quickly. If you don't, go like a slow Seattle person.
According to Wikipedia, Seattle was originally called New York.
Really?
Yes. Quote, "The only members of the party that did not migrate to the eastern shore, blah, 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 established a village they initially called New York after Terry's hometown.
Oh.
They eventually renamed it Alki, a Chinook word, sorry. I'm reading from Wikipedia quickly, meaning by and by or someday. Blah, 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 blah. Eventually, Seattle.
Where does Seattle come from?
Comes after Chief Sealth of Duwamish and the Squamish tribes.
Go him. He's got it. Yeah.
You know what? Maybe we should call it New York.
No.
Anyway. But yeah,
Anyway.
We walked around. We went to this weird store. And all I want to say about it is, one, it had 2 items of note, items of interest. Item the first, a really, really big and scary statue of Mark Twain.
Oh, this store.
Item the second, a miniature version of that exact same creepy ass hot dog in Wildwood.
They also had these cool Uncle Scrooge statues and some cool pirate statues. It's basically one of those, Asian import stores, but they seem to specialize in big statue things, especially Disney ones.
However,
I kind of wish I got that Uncle Scrooge statue.
At the same time, the store smelled vaguely of incense used to cover weed, and I could not find a proprietor.
There was a proprietor. I saw them go into the back as we came in.
Possibly to burn some incense.
Possibly to run away from us crazies from New York.
Yeah. At that point, I think we still look like New Yorkers because I kind of had my gait going again.
Yeah, we also went to this toy store, which is pretty much just old-fashioned toy store. Doesn't sell modern toys, sells real toys. And they had some good stuff in there. No, but nothing that I haven't seen anywhere else, really. At least not that I can remember.
One thing I can say, though, that was cool was that Ro,
they had horse head on a stick.
Oh, yeah, they did. But Ro, our listener who was taking us around, her and her boyfriend and her Asian posse, more on them later.
Yeah, Asian posse, what's up?
Yeah, I got to respect them in a big way because inverse wizard hat is one of the funniest things I've heard in life. But anyway, so, they kept saying, yeah, we should eat at the food court at the Westlake Mall. It's the best food court ever. Yeah, let's go get lunch there. And, we were polite, but I was thinking the whole time, mall food court?
Well,
no.
I was kind of okay with the mall food court because we had ate at basically every other meal except for that breakfast sandwich was at a real restaurant, sitting down, getting a real meal. So I'm like, okay, we should eat mall food court once.
Yeah, but I was still like, I don't know, mall food court, especially because I got to walk.
I was
like
expecting
3
it to be
blocks.
like, the mall food court at Otakon in a little mall there.
So when they said this is the best mall food court in the world, they were not kidding. Oh my God, this place was exciting.
I mean, it had a McDonald's. Okay.
It had a Sbarro's.
It did. Everything else in there except the McDonald's and the Sbarro's was awesome.
I had to choose between the really good-looking Thai food, the really good-smelling Indian food, and the awesome-looking Greek food. I ended up eating a pile.
And the crepes.
Oh my God, the crepes.
Because there are crepes everywhere in Seattle for some reason.
I ended up eating a pile of falafel and hummus and baba ganoush and dolmade. Oh
I got
my God.
the Thai food, which came with a mango lemonade. Take that.
I got a Dr. Pepper because I had to wash down the mass of falafel larger than I should have gotten.
Yeah, it's basically a mall food court, and except for the McDonald's and the Sbarro's, every place in there was like a good, interesting, clean, and awesome looking kind of food.
Yeah, speaking of clean, I gotta say, I love New York, and no one can ever accuse me of disliking New York City. But Seattle really didn't smell like pee at all, except for
everything was really clean.
Except for there's one street between two kind of intersections smelled like pee and had this dilapidated Johnny Rockets, but everything else was awesome and clean.
Yeah, it was. That
Really
one area
clean.
was sort of weird, but everything else was really clean.
Yeah, and the weird thing, that area was like between the two nice areas. That area was like dilapidated Johnny Rockets, scary pawn shop.
That Johnny Rockets freaked me out because I never saw it open. It was dark inside, but if I looked in the window, first of all, there's no indication that it was supposed to be closed or anything. But if you looked in the window, everything was set up. All the napkins were still in there and everything. It was just never open.
Yeah,
Freaky.
but right across the street was like the scariest looking hobo alley I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Partly because alleys are a rare thing to find in New York City. They're not that common anymore.
there's plenty of alleys in New York City.
Well, in Manhattan, not so many.
Well, there
actually.
are. They're just sort of closed up.
They're not alleys anymore. They've been converted into other things. They are not open alleys that go to that area behind that's all cool.
No, the area, usually if you live in the building, you get to the area behind real easily.
Yeah, it's not, when I lived in
Usually
Detroit.
the alleys just have like a door or
Let
something.
me put it this way. When I lived in Detroit, there was a functional old school alley behind my house, and that is how we all got access to our garages.
Yeah, when my grandma lived in Queens, basically it was, 169th Street. The next street was just an alley with garages on both sides of it facing inwards. Then 170th Street. There was an alley between every row of houses. It was like a little mini street that was wide enough for one car and had garages and backyards on both sides.
But there's one thing really, really cool about Seattle, and that is the the catenary bus public transit. It is kind of like, it's like
I forgot about
midway
it.
between a streetcar, which I think is awesome, and a bus, which could be awesome if implemented properly.
Yeah, I mean, not every bus was using the catenaries. People who don't know, catenary is the overhead electric wires, right? Because like express buses that went out of town and came into town were like hybrids or motors or whatever. But all the buses that sort of stayed in town used the overhead electricity to power themselves rather than, a gasoline engine or whatnot. And there was actually on Monday when we were walking around when the convention was over, we went to the bus terminal where there was like crazy wires all over the place and like tunnels and all sorts of weird shit. And they had a special tunnel for these buses to go in where there was electricity down there.
Yes, basically anyone who says buses don't work as mass transit and buses suck, you're right. They suck everywhere except Seattle.
Well, I think they still suck in Seattle, but they suck less in Seattle.
I don't think they suck that bad because
No, they
I
don't
saw,
suck, but they're still, there's
I'll
things
say
to do
this.
better.
Not only did I see a lot of people using them, and not only did they look like they made a lot of sense, but everyone I talked to where buses came up, basically, if I mentioned, from New York, they said something along the lines of, the buses work pretty damn well.
Yeah, they're not perfect, but they
Plus,
work.
the catenaries were really cool.
Yeah, I think they work as well as buses work. The only problem is you can't carry around tall sticks in Seattle.
No, I was actually, until I got used to it, even though they were like 10 feet above my head, I was real nervous about them because
I wasn't nervous at all.
no,
Actually,
like,
I didn't notice them most of
Not
the
that
time.
I was nervous. It was more that I'd be walking around, looking around, and like suddenly I'd look up and suddenly like, oh shit, they're right there.
Yeah.
Especially when I was upstairs in buildings, I'd see them like right out the window, like looking at me.
Yeah, I'd be scared if I was on like the second floor of a building on a balcony. I'd be wicked scared. But on the sidewalk, I didn't even really notice them at all, except when a bus came down the street. And it was actually pretty cool. The buses, they had to connect to these wires somehow. They were at these intelligent things that moved around and always connected to them. And I never saw them fall off. So the technology worked really well.
So speaking of mass transit in Seattle, obviously there is no subway.
No. At
Well,
least not that I know about.
But there is a monorail. Now, here's what I knew about the monorail before I went to Seattle. One, relic from the World's Fair, leads to the Space Needle.
Yep.
That's
now,
it.
I assumed this monorail, did a whole bunch of things, but also took you to the Space Needle. And that, I was like, oh, well, if we're going to go to the Space Needle Monday, we might as well use the monorail. It exists, right? So we go near that mall with the awesome food court and to get on the monorail.
First discovery. Oh, the monorail only goes to the Space Needle. Okay, that's cool.
Yeah. Okay, so we get on the monorail for $2, right? $2?
Yes, and I point out, this is where we ran into for I think the second time, and then we finally kind of semi-hooked up with
There was this cool Scottish dude.
awesome Scottish dude. So if you remember Geeknights, and you're listening to this right now, we lost you about halfway through the sci-fi museum. You were totally cool, and it was totally cool hanging out with you for what we did. And Scotland's awesome, and I'm glad we got to talk to you, and I hope to talk to you again.
So there was this awesome Scottish dude, and I think we met him around our panel and a little bit afterwards. And then he was staying in our hotel, and we happened to bump into him a bunch of times going into the hotel.
So
and
finally-
then he also stuck around Monday to do tourism. So we were sticking with him Monday doing tourism. And
And it was great because basically at one point we're talking about politics, and he was not in any way shy about his political views. And basically he was like, he hates the Bush administration, and he was complaining, but then he's like, yeah, but I can't complain because Tony Blair was just as much of the cock up and blah,
Yeah.
blah, 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 blah. But then we start with he was like, how did this happen? So we were explaining what happened in America and how it
just
really
real
works.
simply and how the government works. You just sort of oh, that's how it works.
And
Alrighty.
he was really interested. Then he started telling us about Scotland, and it was also really interesting. So, dude, I don't think we're going to mention you again, but you were totally cool.
Send us an email or join our forums or something. If you join the forums, just go to the identify yourself thread and say, I'm Scottish dude.
And don't be offended if I say Scotland, because I like saying it that way.
Oi. Even
Scotland.
though it's Australia
Scotland.
that says oi.
Scotland.
I mean, Scrooge McDuck. I mean, come on. Anyway.
Yeah, Scottish.
All right.
Anyway, so
A blancmange.
so one monorail. Monorail. What's that? Monorail.
All right. This monorail was pretty lame. I don't
Well,
even remember the monorail trip. It was so quick.
I do. I actually got a really good view of the way we walked back, basically. Here's the deal. So we get off the monorail, and it felt like it was going real fast. We get pretty far, and we're, all right, Space Needle. But let's just come back to the monorail. So I see the Space Needle. And first off, this is definitely Rim the Tourist coming out, but Scott was the same way. And I think a lot of people who've never been to Seattle, every depiction of Seattle is that the Space Needle is like this looming edifice.
I mean, the Seattle Supersonics no longer exist. They just moved to Oklahoma City. But their logo, right? The Space Needle had a prominent position on their logo. It's like a part of the skyline in every depiction of Seattle, every illustration, right?
Yep,
the same
like
way the
Frasier.
Empire State Building is part of the New York skyline.
Fraser Crane, the Seattle thing is like, it's big, it's there. When we got to Seattle, I didn't see it at all. And eventually, you
I
know,
was like, where is it?
locals were like, oh, no, it's just really far away. It's big if you're over there. So we finally get there. And I'm not making fun of you, Seattle, because I think the Space Needle is awesome.
It's
I wanna
pretty
get
cool.
I think it's awesome.
Basically, we have our World's Fair shit in New York and we let it rust. So mad props to you for not letting it rust. But it's not that tall. It's only 500 feet tall.
I know, I've been on roller coasters that weren't that much smaller than that. Well, no, it's 500 and it's 600 feet tall, but you can only get 500 feet up.
Oh, okay. All right. Even
And
so,
that one dude
it's
gets
not that
600
tall.
feet up because he has to climb out there and change that light bulb.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. There were some cool fun facts about the Space Needle, and it's a pretty cool structure. And, it's not that bad, but it's not that impressive either. I mean, I paid $15 to go up it once. I'll never pay $15 to go up it again. Let me just say that much. And I was sort of disappointed. There's a revolving restaurant in the Space Needle that we didn't eat at because it was ultra overpriced, like quadruple the price of normal food.
It didn't look that good either. But for anyone who thinks that the Space Needle rotates and then you can sit in the restaurant, no. The restaurant floor rotates.
Yeah, I was disappointed by that. I thought at least like one floor or like one section of the needle rotated. But no, it's just the floor in this one restaurant rotates. And I was saddened by that too.
Okay. I'm reading the Wikipedia here. I got to read this because obviously someone is messing with Wikipedia.
Space Needle Wikipedia?
3 people have committed suicide by leaping from the Space Needle's observation platform.
How could you? They had so many wires. I couldn't even get out if I wanted to.
Blah, blah, blah. 2 of them jumped in 1974 before a safety grid was installed around the platform.
Oh, okay.
Now I'm sad because the safety grid was kind of annoying and didn't
It was
need
a
to
little
be
bit.
there.
It made it hard to take pictures.
Blah, 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 blah. Now, tell me if you can figure out when Wikipedia is being gamed. The only known person to survive a jump from the Space Needle was Alexander Gushy, a student from Canada, who afterwards ate a 72-ounce steak in 15 minutes and walked around on his hands for 3 days.
Okay.
All right, there's a citation. You talk. I'm going to follow this
You
citation.
think it's the real deal? It could be. Anyway.
Oh, the citation doesn't go up. The citation. All right, you keep talking. I'm reading the citation here.
So the Space Needle was, you got a good view from there because everything around it was sort of low down. Meanwhile, going around the Space Needle was, a park because there was a World's Fair there at one point, so there was still a park there. And the park had this sort of Bumbershoot music festival going on, which is pretty popular. And there were a lot of people hanging out going in. We thought about going in. It would have cost us $40 to get in there.
If we didn't have to fly out that night, we totally would have stayed and seen some popular music concerts.
Right. But, I didn't know any of the bands and I wasn't too interested. And I only had one day there before we had to go home that night. So we didn't go in, but we saw what was going on from up above and it looked like a pretty happening,
All right, the citation's fake. But anyway,
Lollapalooza kind of music festival.
I realized something though. We could have just gone up the Space Needle because it's right there. We could have totally seen the concerts and heard them pretty well from the Space Needle.
Yeah, there was one concert going on the main stage, and we could hear it kind of okay from up there.
And the main
you
stage-
pay to get up the Space Needle, you can stay up there till it closes. It's not you just pay a price to get up, and it's free to stay there and go down whenever.
But the main stage is like right there. It's like you could easily listen. But I think the Space Needle is awesome because I like it when people take things that are old and cool, like World's Fair stuff, and just keep it around. But we get to the top, and I look out, and I see where we got on the stupid monorail. It's right there. We could have walked it in like 15 minutes, maybe 10 minutes.
Yeah, so the monorail is for really lazy people, and it's sort of useless.
It was right there. And then, at the top, and the Scottish guy is like, you couldn't walk there, referring to this high school at the top, I think, Queen Anne's Hill, but you could totally walk there. You can walk, everywhere. It was all right there.
Yeah, pretty much from the Space Needle, we could see all the different parts of Seattle, and to most of them, we could have walked easily. You look at the Queen Anne's Hill with this fancy building at the top, And I look at it, and it looks like it's a pretty steep hill, and I guess it is kind of steep.
But then we walked down. We
I
walked up to
look
it.
closer at it. It's 4 city blocks tall. That's it. It's just 4 city blocks up the hill. That's it.
So, we walked to the base of it, and we could have just walked up.
I didn't want to walk up because I really didn't want to walk around where people's houses are.
I kind of did. I wanted to see, but Scott
You
didn't
wanted to
want
see people's houses.
Yeah, I wanted to walk around the different neighborhoods, get a feel for it.
It's just people's houses.
But anyway, we walked-
I can understand walking around, non-main neighborhoods, but not just residential neighborhoods.
I don't know. I had a lot of fun walking around New York City, just random places like through the brownstones and things.
But those aren't, it depends where you are. A lot of the, places in New York, there's always stuff at the bottom, even though it's residential up top.
not in the midst of like the brownstones in Brooklyn,
Anyway,
which I've wandered around because I think they're cool. Anyway, we walked around. Look in Scott's Flickr. I don't know if he uploaded yet, but we took pictures of all the kind of cool and weird stuff we saw. We found this awesome donut place.
Well, we went to, before you're getting ahead of you, went to the Sci-Fi Museum.
Oh yeah, we should probably save that for a separate show because we're already going on kind of long.
Oh,
here.
do you want to save for a separate show?
I think we should. That's a Monday.
Basically, there's a sci-fi museum, and it's okay. I heard bad things about it, but we went anyway because
The
what
bad
the hell?
things were kind of unjustified.
I mean, it wasn't super amazing, but it had some good stuff that was worth seeing.
Yeah, there were some really neat artifacts in there, including a Death Star.
Yeah, I mean, museum-wise, it definitely had some negatives, but actually there was this temporary exhibit, temporary meaning like 6 months, about, that had a bunch of toy robots, and I was liking that action.
But I enjoyed it, and we'll talk about it some Monday.
All right.
But, we wandered around. All I want to say about this donut place is, oh my God, she's one of those needs to be in New York City.
And that donut place had more fill up your shelf with books you're never going to read books that I've ever seen in one place at a time. Even more than like big furniture stores.
They had real donuts.
There was
Not Krispy Kremes. These were
I
real
had
ass
a
donuts.
cinnamon sugar blueberry donut.
I had a real sour cream donut.
It was like a blueberry muffin, but donut
Yeah.
with cinnamon sugar.
We wandered around, saw a bunch of other weird stuff, and
Yeah, we saw this place. It was like Wexley School for Girls. I don't know what it is. I should look it up. I kept meaning to.
yeah, we didn't look it up, but we took a picture of it. It was so weird. We were trying to figure out what it was.
I'm looking it up right now. Wexley School for Girls based in Seattle is... There's a flash loading.
Flash loading.
Hold on.
All right, but one thing I'll say while Scott talks about that is that Seattle's really vertical. Like, not in terms of buildings or anything, because there weren't that many skyscrapers and things, but in that, like, all the parks we went to were more like terrace gardens, and, like, everything was multi-leveled, and you'd enter and exit buildings on different floors. It was kind of cool that way, because, it's built, like, there's hills about, and there's steep streets and things, but wandering through all these parks really made clear the fact that parkour is real big in Seattle. And in fact, one of the cool dudes in the Asian posse, really into parkour. He's like in this parkour club. And I was thinking, all right, I guess Seattle's where the cool parkour people are. Now I know why. You walk around any park in Seattle and you're like, oh shit, here's where the parkour be. Oh my God. If I were a parkour dude, I could totally jump over that thing.
I don't know. I wasn't listening to you because I was reading about the Wexley School for Girls, which is just a really awesome and quirky marketing agency.
Oh.
Right? Yeah.
Oh.
But
well, I guess it worked.
There was this awesome park attached to the convention center that went like all the way down the highway, and it was pretty big. Relative to Seattle, it was like multiple city blocks, and it basically it was all these ups and downs and lefts and rights and circles and benches and concrete and trees, and it was really kind of funky and definitely, the kind of place where you can go and film a wicked movie and do some parkour.
Yeah, so we wandered around there. We kept saying, I'll do some parkour. We didn't do any parkour. Oh my God, we would have died.
No.
Yeah. But yeah, we wandered around. Seattle was a pretty fun place. I'm stalling for time because I'm going to end this show kind of soon.
Do you want to talk about the GameWorks?
Let's talk about the GameWorks, though. We should probably review the GameWorks on a Tuesday.
Let me just say, I'll just tell this real quick. When I was younger on TV, when GameWorks was a new place, I saw this story like, oh my God, GameWorks, right? And it was basically like, we're opening up an awesome arcade in Seattle and a bunch of other places, but the flagship one is in Seattle. And I saw that and I was like, oh man, I want to go there, right? And, later on, places like Dave & Buster's opened up in Jillian's, and they were sort of the restaurant arcade places, they were all right. They went downhill over time, though. Dave & Buster's was cool, got uncool. The VR was big back then, and they showed off all sorts of laser tag and battle tech and all that business. So I wondered when I was going to Seattle, does GameWorks still exist? And yes, it does. But It's just a Sega arcade now. The VR is gone. It's pretty much just a sports bar and a bunch of arcade games. But the prices on the games are reasonable, unlike Dave & Buster's and Jillian's.
Every game, 50 cents.
Yeah, and they had, like Indie Racing too, the big Indie Racing machine, which is wicked old school, but wicked awesome.
Now, despite the fact
that I've only ever played it, once before at Epcot Center in Disney World.
Here, we'll sum it up. It was the best arcade I've walked into in like 9 years.
But it was still not the greatest.
Yeah, but it was fun.
It had many flaws, but it was better than any arcade I've been to in a long time. They actually had the F-Zero game, even though it was somewhat broken. They had Initial D4. Oh, yeah. They had 3 DDRs, but the only good one was the Supernova, which it wasn't even that good. They had the newest version, the 9th version of the drumming game.
Yes, Taiko Drummer.
Taiko Drum Master.
It was super fun to play. Oh my
Except
God.
on the right drum, one of the sensors was a little broken.
Yeah, we were playing that with some other PAX guy we ran into randomly.
Yeah, I finally figured out how to play it, and I'm actually kind of good at it.
Yeah, I got up to I did the hardest song and the highest difficulty.
I played the
passed.
Haruhi theme. That's how new it was.
Yeah.
They had classic games. They had really bad air hockey. They used multiple pucks at once.
Oh my God, there was a point. There were like 5 pucks out, and we each had 2 paddles.
And the giant goal. It was really bad.
You know
air
what, though?
hockey.
I point out, I won by like 18.
It was really bad.
Yeah, but I point out that bad or not, I won.
Anyway.
The important thing is that I won.
What happened to this doesn't mean shit because it's such a bad air hockey.
Unless I win, then it means
and
everything.
then you win, and suddenly it means something. Yeah.
But one thing, I don't want to talk about all the restaurants.
I wasn't
we
playing
ate
for
at.
serious because it didn't matter.
But one thing I want to talk about is that, we kept kind of just randomly picking restaurants, and some were good and some were mediocre, but whatever.
Some were good, but they were overpriced. Like we ate at one place, the Daily Grill, and it was okay. It was good food, but paid too much for it.
Yeah, I mean, because at one point I was eating there, then I suddenly thought, for like $7 at the Alumni Grill, I could have a burger with cheese sticks and onion rings instead of cheese. And
yeah, it's like you got a burger from the Daily Grill, and it was like what, $20, something like that. But
Yeah.
for $7 at the Alumni Grill in Wildwood, New Jersey, you could have had man's.
But at the same time, finally we're like, all right. And instead of trying to use a food thing or a website or just winging it, people on Twitter apparently kept talking about Vons.
Well, I think a couple of people mentioned Vons, and I saw Vons, and we tried to eat there once, and the dining room was closed for the night because it was late. So we ate there on Labor Day during the happy hour.
I've maybe just because of my life, but I've never actually been in a bar during a happy hour. They had this big wheel, right? So we're sitting directly under the wheel, and they spin it.
First of all, it was seat yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And all I'm going to say is I ordered, this was one of the biggest pieces of meat I've ever eaten. It was a gigantic prime rib. It was also...
I ordered the special that you could only order on Monday night, and it was Monday afternoonish. I got these beef ribs. Oh my gosh.
This was, I would say that this is probably...
I couldn't finish the final rib.
It was probably...
Didn't you get the prime rib?
Third, or it was... I got some cooked properly prime rib...
On a big piece of bread?
On a giant piece of fried cornbread.
Ah.
Yes. And the cornbread, by the time I finished the steak, was filled with fat and grease. And oh my God. It was like $30, but it was totally worth it.
It was expensive, but it wasn't nearly as expensive as some of the other ones in terms of dollar per value.
It was totally the 3rd or 4th best prime rib I've ever eaten.
Yeah, it was really damn good. It wasn't like the best food I've ever eaten, but I would totally eat there again for maybe 2 meals next time we go.
I wanted a root beer that had some boutique root beer on tap. It was fantastic.
Yeah, I got a lemonade. It's pretty good.
And then I got to say this. So we're sitting there, and then, happy hour or whatever, they spin the wheel.
And the wheel basically has different drinks on all the different spots. So it might come up on like $4
Grey Goose, whatever.
Yeah,
or,
so that means that everyone can, if you want, you can order that for $4, which is less than the normal price. Or it might come up at bartender's choice, or it might come up at choice of table 401, and then whoever's sitting at table 401 gets to pick.
Now, I didn't really care, I was like, all right, whatever, it's happy hour. I don't want to drink whatever kind of shots the frat boys drink. But it happened to land on the Manhattan, my favorite drink in the world.
It was like Maker's something Manhattan.
It was a Manhattan with Maker's Mark.
All right.
Now, lately, Anand from Apple Geeks, I like a Manhattan. I like whiskey and that sort of thing. And I drunk a whole bunch of different whiskeys, and I never really paid attention, but He turned me on to Jameson. I've been a Jameson man ever since. Jameson is my favorite. Oh my God.
I actually knew about Jameson because I saw ads for it in the subway.
But he turned me onto it in a big way. So for the first time in a long time, I decide, all right, it's $2.50. I'll order the stupid Manhattan with Maker's Mark, whatever. Let me tell you, the food was good. That was a terrible Manhattan. Maker's Mark is ass. Oh my God. I barely finished the stupid thing. I choked it down grudgingly because I wasn't going to give up my whiskey.
Yeah, it didn't. It seemed like they had a good selection of alcohols.
They did, but
not that what I would know. But it seemed like a lot of their alcohols were get drunk variety, not like that other place that the tap house we ate at that seemed to have the fancy beer variety.
All right, you want to learn about PAX? And I followed up with this online. Of the beer houses around PAX, pretty much all of them ran out of almost all of their interesting beers because of PAX.
Awesome.
You go into pretty much, it was the cool thing. We're talking about everywhere you went PAX. You go to any restaurant, anywhere, PAX people. Go to a bar, a grill, all night long. It's like all PAX people. And like one businessman going, what the fuck, dude?
It was pretty nice how we could get into anywhere with shorts and a t-shirt, but we didn't try to eat at the Capitol Grill or the Ruth Chris. So.
The thing is, there's a Capitol Grill and a Ruth Chris like all over the place.
Exactly.
Why am I gonna eat? It's like, a lot of PAX people went to like the Cheesecake Factory.
It's like those places are good when you don't have another choice. It's like, okay, there's nowhere to eat. I know that place is safe and good. It's sort of like, your safety net. It's not the place you choose to go. I mean, not that it's not awesome, Capitol Grill, but, it's a safety net because I can always eat at it whenever I want.
Yeah, and also, if you go to a city multiple times, you go there, like Baltimore. I've already eaten at a lot of the places around there, and I know what's there. So I go there so often, I know what's good. I make an informed choice. If you're in a new city, eat at the places that you can't eat anywhere else. Go to like the weird restaurant. Go to the things that aren't chains or chains you've never heard of in the very least.
Yeah.
But, I could see now that
of course, if it's a chain you never heard of, you won't know it's a chain. You'll think it's just a restaurant.
Yeah, but
like imagine this. Imagine if you saw Cheesecake Factory, but you didn't know it was a chain. You thought it was just a place called Cheesecake Factory that was in Seattle only. Oh, man.
Yeah.
I would totally have gone there. But because I knew it was the Shit Cake Factory, no need to go.
But I've kind of learned, I think I have a good appraisal of the restaurants in the vicinity of PAX, and I think I'll eat at least one of those places again.
Yeah, definitely.
Though we didn't eat at the Elephant Castle, and I kind of wanted to.
Yeah, the Elephant Castle was the bar under our hotel. It looked just like a bar.
But the theme was great. It was the
theme
Elephant
was great.
Castle.
It was an elephant with a castle on its back.
It was great. I really dug the theme.
Really good marketing on that
Also,
place.
I gotta say, we checked in late at night on the Thursday before the con, and the dude who checked us in was actually like, when you're doing some sort of transaction with people in a service sector, most of the time it's all business. Like they do their thing, you do your thing. But every now and then, like the person will be funny with you, and it's rare. And
sometimes they're annoying funny with you. Like they're trying to be funny, but they're just being annoying and stupid.
But also sometimes, like, you both have to be in the mood to be funny. Like if I'm not in the mood to like have banter with some stranger and he starts banter, it's like, oh my God, banter. Look, why must we go through this charade?
Charade.
I was quoting something, Scott. Anyway.
Yeah.
Anyway. But the confluence was right. I was ready for some silly talk. He was fishing for some silly talk. We had some silly talk.
He was about to go home. He just got off a plane. It was like the best silly talk at a hotel check-in ever.
Because I was like, hi, my name, blah, blah, blah. I'd like to check into the hotel under Geeknights. And the guy's like, well, I'd like to help you with that. And then there's this pregnant pause. And then I say, well, then I think we can come to some sort of business arrangement, all serious like. And he looks at me and he smiles and I smile. And then he was totally awesome. And he starts talking about PAX and he tells me all the good bars. And it was a good time.
Yep.
On that note, what else can I say? There's probably a million things I forgot, a bunch of cool people I met that I forgot about. I want to say, dude who met us in the Dragonfish, which was pretty cool.
Oh, Dragonfish is a good fucking
I'm glad
restaurant.
you joined the forum, and I'm glad you said
Wasn't that Scottish guy also?
No. And I'm glad you said that you joined because of the Dragonfish, because now I know who you are.
Oh, okay.
He joined the forum. He said, I'm the guy. He said, blah, 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 blah. By the way, Dragonfish. And I was like, oh, that guy.
Right. That's right. Because I told him, remind us you're the guy from the Dragonfish. Now I remember who he is. All right.
Yeah, he was the guy who knew. He was probably the most knowledgeable guy outside of us, Jared Sorensen and Luke Crane at our panel.
Yeah.
And he had a lot of cool things to say, and I really would like to hear his impressions of Burning Wheel once he's tried it, because he's one of those knowledgeable guys who just hasn't played Burning Wheel.
Yep. Yeah.
But yeah, I got to end on this.
Dragonfish is a good restaurant.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of fun things
I like
happen in
how we
Seattle.
experience a new city through its food.
Well, there was a lot more. I mean, we walked around the city a lot. Like, we walked into some weird neighborhoods and some weird places. Like, the bus terminal Scott was talking about, totally abandoned and closed because it was a holiday. But, like, we climbed up as high as we could and we're peering down into it. And it was kind of cool and artistic to see it empty like that. And there was this really neat moment where the periodic PA that says things like "don't leave bags unattended," blah blah blah, was still going, but there was no one there.
Yeah, it was freaky.
And
There was
there was a
also
lot
the
of-
Pink Elephant Car Wash.
Yeah, there were also all these awesome sculptures
There was
all over the place.
There was that gas station that had a teriyaki place in it, but the teriyaki place in the gas station was closed.
Yeah, it was like gas station and our awesome teriyaki burgers.
Well, we don't know it was awesome.
they said they were awesome. I
it's
didn't.
all right. They said they were awesome.
I got some Red Bull instead, but
Yeah.
yeah, but we did a lot of
Why
stuff.
wasn't the Red Bull truck at PAX?
Oh my god!
I guess they didn't want to lose money. Usually those things make money.
No,
but-
you know what? They don't make money. They give it away. They're not going to be at PAX because who at PAX does not drink Red Bull or already know Red Bull exists and has made the
Well,
decision not to
those
drink it?
other energy drink was there.
Because they're trying to be Red Bull.
Not gonna work.
But we did a bunch of stuff that we didn't talk about here. But Seattle was really cool, and I'd like to go back. Well, I'm going back because I'll be at PAX next year.
Yeah, but would you go back to Seattle if there wasn't PAX? I mean, it's a good city. It's not a bad city. It's not
No,
like one of
saying-
those places where I'll be like, ugh,
Would you go
Seattle.
back to Seattle without PAX is like saying, would you go to Chicago for no reason?
Yeah.
I've been to Seattle or Chicago. I'm not going to go back unless I have a reason. There's a lot of things that could cause me to go back, and I wouldn't say Seattle. I'm not going back there like I say about much of Jersey. But
Yeah, Seattle's an okay place. It's pretty cool. It's nice and modern and fancy and clean, and it's a good place to have a little convention, and it's pretty convenient for walking around, and the hotels are cheap, and I kind of like it. I wouldn't live there, but
we had to take a car service back to the airport because the shuttle totally sucked ass, and the hotel guy was like, "No, dude, the shuttle takes like an hour. Seriously."
Yeah,
Just
because
call a
it's not
car."
one of those shuttles that goes from your hotel to the airport. It's a shuttle that goes to every hotel than the airport.
So on the way back, right, we're in the car service, very good, sir, and all the business, and the guy's chatty, and we're telling him what we were doing, and he's interested, and we see this weird elevated thing, and we're trying to figure out what it does, and Scott's like, it's a monorail. And I'm like, it can't be a monorail, because why would it not go to Seattle? And if from the airport, where else would it go? And if it went to Seattle, we would have taken it. And then we see the sign that settled the argument. It says, light rail to Seattle from airport coming 2009. We're like, oh.
So I guess car service guy's going to be in trouble next year.
Yeah, because I'm going to take that monorail, whatever it is.
Light rail.
But so we took the late night flight home, and we got back to New York City after a fitful sleep.
It was 6 a.m. New York time when we got there.
So, there's this place, and I'm going to end on this, in New York City. It's if you go out of the 42nd Street entrance under Pershing Square from Grand Central. It's called either the Central Cafe or the Pershing Square Cafe.
Pershing Square Central Cafe.
Don't even try to figure it out. You see it. It's right there. And I've eaten there for dinner. I've eaten there for lunch.
I never ate there for lunch. I ate there for dinner twice, and it was really good.
The dinner is really, really good. The lunch is also really, really good. And we always see they have this sign, New York's best and busiest breakfast. And
Yeah, it's
every
like I
morning-
always saw the sign outside this place, and I used to always think, oh man, that's a place I got to eat breakfast there sometime.
It's
but
like,
when?
man, I want to pay money to get like a really good breakfast. Like this could be cool. It's also really
Someday
convenient.
I'll eat the breakfast there. Someday.
So-
Someday.
The Tuesday after PAX was that day. We go in, we sit down. We're there kind of early, and it's weird because it was a work day. On a normal work day, I would have already been at work. In fact, I was sitting right next to the building I work in, but I was not working at it that day. And, we get seated and we get the menu. Really shit menu, uninspiring crap. It's like the menu that a crappy little diner has. But I figured.
Yeah, it's not like, when I've had the best breakfast I ever had, it was at a place called Leo's, which has changed its name to King's in Connecticut. I think it's technically Newtown, Connecticut. And when it was called Leo's, this guy owned it, and you could go in there and order the Wheel of Fortune. Let me explain to you the Wheel of Fortune. Are you ready for this? Because it puts the Tremendous 12 to shame. We were talking about a combination of waffles, pancakes, French toast, eggs, bacon, sausage, bananas, mixed berries, whipped cream, and a cherry on top.
Oh, my shit.
For less than $20.
All right, now here's the thing. But I was thinking, all right, benefit of the doubt. The lunch and dinner menus are both very sparse. They have very few but very well put together things. I'm thinking, all right, maybe these are just, like the best of these kinds of breakfasts.
And outside, they actually had a sign like famous pancakes. Famous.
So, that was one of the worst breakfasts I've ever had. It was terrible. I didn't even leave a tip. It was so not good.
I mean, I ordered a banana pancakes, right? It was basically 3 pancakes with syrup.
Undercooked pancakes.
Right? They were slightly undercooked. It's in some parts of them. And there was like... I don't even know. They were so not... The banana, right? I ordered banana pancakes. I expect like a mountain of bananas and whipped cream on the pancakes. It's like they took a quarter of a banana and sliced it up and put it on the side. And that cost me $1. $1. And for a quarter of a banana sliced up on the side.
The eggs were mushy. The toast was weak. It was like the breakfast that I would have been happy if I had paid like $5 for that at a diner in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, that would have been good.
So I'm just gonna say this right now: never eat breakfast at that godforsaken place. That was the
eat dinner there. Eat dinner
yes,
there.
But that was what though? Because the breakfast is so bad, despite how much they hype it up,
you want to boycott the dinner too?
I feel like I should never eat there again.
Well, I mean, the dinner is good, but I do feel like you could get it's not like an amazing dinner you can't get anywhere else. So maybe because the breakfast is so bad, maybe we shouldn't eat there for dinner.
But that was it was so bad. Central Cafe, you suck. There's a reason I left no tip.
Yeah, well, we left I think $1.
I left $1 because I didn't want to figure it out.
Anyone who ever goes to Corning, New York, I don't know if it's still there. There's a place called Boomers. Go there in the morning because it's like mostly a burger place. Like at night, you'll go there, right? If you go there for breakfast and ask for the pancakes, if they tell you, right? Order a short stack, I swear to God, because they'll be like, are you sure you want a full stack? They're big. They're big. Get a short stack. Oh, my God. But go there. Okay. Pancakes.
This has been Geek Nights with Rim and Scott. Special thanks to DJ Pretzel for the opening music.
Be sure to visit our website at www.frontrowcrew.com, where you'll find show notes, links, our awesome forum, a link to our Frapper map, and links to all the RSS feeds.
We say feeds plural because Geek Nights airs 4 nights a week, covering 4 different brands of geekery. Mondays are science and technology. Tuesdays, we have video games, board games, and RPGs. Wednesdays are anime, manga, comic nights. And Thursdays are the catch-alls for various rants and tomfoolery.
You can send us feedback by email to geeknights@frontrowcrew.com. Or you can send audio feedback via audio. Just click the link that says Send Me an Audio on the right side of our website.
If you like what you hear, you can catch the last 100 episodes in iTunes or in your favorite podcatcher. For the complete archives, visit the website, which has everything.
Geeknights is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial Share-alike 2.5 license. This means you can do whatever you want with it as long as you give us credit, don't make money, and share it in kind. Geeknights is recorded live with no studio and no audience. But unlike those other late shows, it's actually recorded at night.